Learn about the world. Belarus. Belarus borders Russia to the northeast, Ukraine to the south, Poland to the west, and Lithuania and Latvia to the northwest. The capital of Belarus is Minsk. Other major cities include Brest, Rodno, Homiel, Mohyliau, and Vitebsk. Basic information. Full name, Republic of Belarus. Type of government, Republic, de facto dictatorship. ISO, BY, BLR. Country code, BY. Time zone, +2 o'clock. Telephone code, +375. Capital, Minsk. Major cities, Baranovichi, Bobruz, Brest, Gomel, Grodno, Rodno, Mogilev, Polotsk, Vitebsk. Area, 207,600 square kilometers. Terrain, coastal, generally flat with dense forests, many marshes and fields. Climate, cold winters, cool and humid summers, transitional between continental and oceanic climates. Population, 9,002,122, May 2025. Main ethnic groups, Belarusians, 81%, Russians, 11%, Poles, Ukrainians. Other, 8%. Religions, Eastern Orthodox 80%, other, including Roman Catholic, Greek Catholic, Protestant, Orthodox, Jewish, Muslim 20%. Languages, Belarusian, Russian. Natural resources, forests, peat deposits, small amounts of petroleum and natural gas, granite, dolomite limestone, chalk, sand, gravel, clay. Agricultural products, grains, potatoes, vegetables, sugar beets, flax. Cattle, milk, industrial products, metal cutting machines, tractors, trucks, milling machines, motorcycles, televisions, chemical fibers, fertilizers, textiles, radios, refrigerators. Export partners, Russia, UK, Ukraine, Netherlands, Germany. Import partners, Russia, China, Germany. Currency, Belarusian ruble, BYB, BYR. Foreign relations, Belarus is one of only 2 Soviet republics to be separate members of the United Nations. Both republics and the Soviet Union joined the UN when the organization was founded in 1945. Belarus became a member of the Commonwealth of Independent States, CIS. The Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, OSCE, NATO's Partnership for Peace, the North Atlantic Cooperation Council, the International Monetary Fund, and the World Bank. It has also been in a supranational union with Russia since the 2nd of April 1996, although this has had little practical effect. Belarus Council of Europe relations are based on cooperation and it is not a member, like Russia. The introduction of free trade between Russia and Belarus in mid-1995 led to a spectacular growth in bilateral trade, which was only temporarily reversed in the wake of the financial crisis of 1998. The integration treaties contained commitments to monetary union, equal rights, single citizenship, and a common defense and foreign policy. Following the recognition of Belarus as an independent state in December 1991 by the European Community, EC-EU-Belarus relations initially experienced a steady progress. The signature of the Partnership and Cooperation Agreement, PCA, in 1995 signaled a commitment to political, economic and trade cooperation. In 2000, some moderately positive developments toward the implementation of recommendations made by the OSCE-AMG were observed but were not sufficient in the realm of access to fair and free elections. Belarus established diplomatic relations with the United Kingdom on the 27th of January 1992. Both countries share common membership of the OSCE. Bilaterally, the two countries have a double taxation agreement and an investment agreement. The United States has encouraged Belarus to conclude and adhere to agreements with the International Monetary Fund, IMF, on the program of macroeconomic stabilization and related reform measures, as well as to undertake increased privatization and to create a favorable climate for business and investment. Belarus is eligible for Export-Import Bank short-term financing insurance for U.S. investments, but because of the adverse business climate, no projects have been initiated. The United States, along with the European Union, has restricted the travel of President Alexander Lukashenko and members of his inner circle, as well as imposing economic sanctions. Belarus-Estonia relations are foreign relations between Belarus and Estonia. Before 1991, both countries were part of the USSR, and before then part of the Russian Empire. Diplomatic relations between both countries were established on April 6, 1992. Belarus has a consulate general in Tallinn. Estonia opened its consulate general in Minsk on July 21, 1995. Overall, the visit of Sviatlana Tikhanovskaya to Tallinn highlighted Estonia's commitment to supporting democracy in Belarus and strengthening bilateral ties between the two nations. Currently, Belarus has an embassy in Riga, while Latvia has an embassy in Minsk. The countries share 161 kilometers as it relates to their common border. Belarus and Lithuania established diplomatic relations on 24 October 1991, shortly after the dissolution of the Soviet Union. Both countries are post-Soviet states. The two countries share 680 kilometers (420 mi) of common border. The structure of Belarus trade reflects the low competitiveness and output decline of manufacturing industry in the country over the past decade, leading to the predominance of primary production. Work-intensive goods as exports. Belarusian exports to the EU consist mainly of agricultural and textile products, while imports from the EU are primarily machinery. Belarus is a beneficiary of the EU's Generalized System of Preferences (GSP). The European Commission decided in 2003 to initiate an investigation into violations of freedom of association in Belarus as the first step towards a possible temporary withdrawal of the GSP from Belarus. Russia remains the largest and most important partner for Belarus both in the political and economic fields. After protracted disputes and setbacks, the two countries' customs duties were unified in March 2001, but the customs controls were soon restored. In terms of trade, almost half of Belarusian export goes to Russia. Due to the structure of Belarusian industry, Belarus relies heavily on Russia both for export markets and for the supply of raw materials and components. Due to strained relations with the United States and the European Union, as well as occasional high-level disputes with Russia over prices on core imported natural resources such as oil and gas, Belarus aims to develop better relations with countries in other regions, like the Middle East, Asia, and Latin America. Belarus was one of 53 countries that in June 2020 supported the Hong Kong National Security Law at the United Nations Human Rights Council. Human rights. The government of Belarus is criticized for its human rights violations and persecution of non-governmental organizations, independent journalists, national minorities, and opposition politicians. According to Amnesty International, the authorities did not investigate violations during protests, but instead harassed those who challenged their version of events. In July 2021, the authorities launched a campaign against the remaining non-governmental organizations, liquidating at least 270 of them by October, including all previously registered human rights organizations in the country. President Alexander Lukashenko has described himself as having an authoritarian ruling style. Western countries have described Belarus under Lukashenko as Europe's last dictatorship. The government has accused the same Western powers of attempting a regime change. The Council of Europe has barred Belarus from membership since 1997 for undemocratic voting and election irregularities. In the November 1996 constitutional referendum and parliament by-elections, dozens of Belarusian government officials responsible for political repressions, forced disappearances, propaganda, and electoral fraud have been subject to personal sanctions by the United States of America and the European Union. In June 2020, the Amnesty International documented clampdown on human rights, including the rights to freedom of expression and peaceful assembly and association, ahead of presidential elections scheduled for 9 August 2020. The organization reported politically motivated prosecutions, intimidation, harassment and reprisals against opposition candidates and their supporters. The Belarusian authorities targeted and intimidated civil society activists and independent media. On 14 August 2020, the European Union imposed sanctions on individual Belarusian officials after reports of the systematic abuse and torture of Belarusians in a violent crackdown on protesters. The Belarusian security forces beat and detained peaceful protesters who participated in demonstrations against the official election outcome. Since the 2000s, Reporters Without Borders have been ranking Belarus below all other European countries in its Press Freedom Index. Freedom House has rated Belarus as not free in all of its global surveys since 1998. Freedom in the world, the Lukashenko government curtails press freedom, the organization says. State media are subordinate to the president. Harassment and censorship of independent media are routine. In July 2021, registrations of Belarusian Association of Journalists, Press Club Belarus and Belarusian branch of Writers' Pen Center were revoked as a part of attack on NGOs. The Constitution of Belarus provides for freedom of religion, however. The government restricted this right in practice. The government notes that work continues to protect the different Belarus religious groups and Belarus churches, and to guard against the influence of religious sects. In 2003, Protestant groups accused the government of Belarus of waging a smear campaign against them, telling Poland's Catholic Information Agency KAI that they had been accused of being Western spies and conducting human sacrifice. There have been no major reports of religious persecution of the Muslim community, however. Because of the situation in Chechnya and neighboring Russia, concerns have been expressed by Belarusian Muslims that they may become increasingly vulnerable. These fears were heightened on 16 September 2005 when a bomb was detonated outside a bus stop, injuring 2 people. On 23 September, a bomb was exploded outside a restaurant, wounding nearly 40 people. Muslims are not suspected in the latter attack, which was labeled hooliganism. In 2023, Freedom House rated Belarus religious freedom as 1 out of 4. The constitutional right of freedom of associations is not always implemented in practice. In 2013, Amnesty International characterized Belarusian legislation on registration of NGOs as over-prescriptive. Belarusian judicial system is characterized by the high conviction rate. In 2020, 99.7% of criminal cases resulted in conviction and only 0.3% in acquittance. This rate is stable for several years. The judicial system is especially severe to people expressing their views. Among prosecuted people are journalists, civil activists, people who make political comments and jokes on social networks and put emojis there. Belarus is the only European country that continues to use capital punishment. The U.S. and Belarus were the only two of the 56 member states of the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe to have carried out executions during 2011. In December 2010, Belarusian special security forces attacked demonstrators, beat and injured many activists with batons, and arrested more than 600 people after a rally in central Minsk to protest the outcome of elections widely seen by Western observers as fraudulent. Transport in Belarus includes railways, highways, waterways, pipelines, ports and harbors. Railways have a total of 5,512 kilometers, 3,425 miles broad gauge, 5,497 kilometers, 3,416 miles, of 1,520 millimeters gauge, 874 kilometers, 543 mi, electrified. 2006 Rail transport in Belarus is operated by Belaruskaya Chihunka city with underground railway system. Minsk, see Minsk Metro. Tramway systems in Belarus includes all known tram systems in Belarus, past and present, cities with currently operating systems, and those systems themselves are indicated in bold and blue background colored rows. Those tram systems that operate on other than standard gauge track, where known, are indicated in the notes column. Automobile roads in Belarus are classified into several categories. The state-owned roads of common access are managed by the Belavtodor Department of the Ministry of Transport and Communications of Belarus. They are classified into Republican roads and local roads. Automobile roads may also be owned by persons, businesses, state enterprises, and military. Belarus has an extensive system of four-laned dual carriageways and expressways, currently in expansion. Currently they are M1, border of Poland at Brest, Minsk to border with Russia, on to Moscow, M2. Minsk International Airport, M3. Minsk, Visiebisk, M4. Minsk, Smilovice Servian Berezino. Mohilu, M5. Minsk, Homiel, M6. Minsk, Lida, Rodna to the border with Poland, M7. Minsk, border with Lithuania at Kameny Log, M8. Border with Russia at Ezerish via Vitebsk. Orsha, Mogilev. And Gomel to border with Ukraine at Nowa Huta, M9. Ring road around Minsk, M10. Border with Russia, Gomel, Kalinkovishi, Pinsk, Kobrin, M11. Border with Lithuania at Benyakony, Lida, Slonim. Intersection with P2 near Biden, M12. Kobrin, border with Ukraine at Mokriny, M14. Outer Ring Road around Minsk. The owners of highways may be the Republic of Belarus, its political subdivisions, legal and natural persons, who own roads, as well as legal entities. Which roads are fixed on the basis of economic or operational management. Republican state administration in the field of roads and road activity is the Department Belavtodor under the Ministry of Transport and Communications of the Republic of Belarus. In total, in Belarus has more than 93,000 kilometers, 57,800 miles, of roads and 200 kilometers, 120 mi, of departmental 1,000, agriculture, industry, forestry, etc., including 16,000 kilometers, 10,000 miles, in cities and towns. The density of paved roads has been relatively low, 337 kilometers per 1,000 square kilometers territory, for comparison. In European countries with well-developed road networks, the figure is an average of 906 kilometers, 563 miles. Waterways, 2,500 kilometers, 1,550 miles, use limited by location on perimeter of country and by shallowness. 2003, Belarus inland waterways are managed by Dnipro-Belvodput, and the Dnieper Berezinski Enterprise. Pipelines, gas 5,250 kilometers, 3,260 miles, oil 1,528 kilometers, 949 miles, refined products 1,730 kilometers, 1,070 miles, 2008. Ports and harbors, Mazir, on the river Pripyat. Airports, 65, 2008.1, 2007. Heliports is where helicopter land. Belavia, officially Belavia Belarusian Airlines is the flag carrier of Belarus. Headquartered in Minsk, Belavia serves a network of routes between Commonwealth of Independent States, as well as some Middle East destinations. From its base at Minsk National Airport, following the Ryanair Flight 4978 incident on May 23, 2021, the airline has been banned from the European Union, the United Kingdom, Switzerland, and Ukraine. Education in Belarus is free at all levels except for higher education. The government ministry that oversees the running of the school systems is the Ministry of Education of the Republic of Belarus. Each of the regions inside Belarus has oversight of the education system, and students may attend either a public, state, or a private school. The education system is also based on the Education Code of the Republic of Belarus and other educational standards. The Human Rights Measurement Initiative, HRMI, finds that Belarus is fulfilling 90.8% of what it should be fulfilling for the right to education based on the country's level of income. HRMI breaks down the right to education by looking at the rights to both primary education and secondary education. While taking into consideration Belarus' income level, the nation is achieving 85.2% of what should be possible based on its resources, income, for primary education and 96.3% for secondary education. Preschool education is not compulsory in Belarus, but around 70% of children attend kindergarten, at the ages of 3 to 5, before they start school. Nursery, at the ages 1 to 2, is also available, but it's not as popular as kindergarten because maternity leave in Belarus lasts 3 years and many children stay at home till 3 years. Some kindergartens are specialized to work with psycho-physically challenged children to help them socialize. Very few kindergartens work in Belarusian language, and some parents experience difficulties trying to find a Belarusian-speaking kindergarten. Education in primary and secondary schools is required for children from the ages of 6 until 15 and lasts for 9 years. After finishing basic education, each student must pass the basic educational curriculum and is given a certificate by the state. Then students are able to enter a professional technical institutions where they can focus on completing their high school education and study to get a professional certificate, completion of 11 years of school or a professional certificate allows students to enter higher educational establishments or enter professional technical institutions as well. The length of the schooling depends on what the student has chosen. The majority of children are educated in Russian language. Some regions have no schools working in Belarusian language. Belarusian schools use administrative resource to drag the pupils into the state-controlled BRSM Youth Union. Belarus counts 55 higher education institutions, 45 state-owned, 10 private. To enter a higher educational establishment, a student must pass 3 centralized tests and get up to 100 points per test. There are 2 leading establishments of higher education in the national education system: Belarusian State University, Belarusian State University of Informatics and Radioelectronics. In addition, Belarus has an Academy of Public Administration under the aegis of the President of the Republic of Belarus. In 2020-2021, several teachers were fired for political reasons from universities. A number of students who participated in the protests or openly expressed their civil position were expelled. A number of expelled students were forced to leave the country. A 10-point grading scale has been used since 2002. It is used in primary, secondary and higher education. Belarus has been a member of Bologna process since May 2015. The Bologna process is a series of ministerial meetings and agreements between European countries to ensure comparability in the standards and quality of higher education qualifications. The process has created the European Higher Education Area under the Lisbon Recognition Convention. The process was open to other countries in the European Cultural Convention of the Council of Europe. Healthcare, a new measure of expected human capital calculated for 195 countries from 1990 to 2016 and defined for each birth cohort as the expected years lived from age 20 to 64 years and adjusted for educational attainment, learning or education quality, and functional health status was published by The Lancet in September 2018. Belarus had the 22nd highest level of expected human capital with 23 health, education, and learning adjusted expected years lived between age 20 and 64 years. Life expectancy at birth in Belarus was 69 for men and 79 for women in 2016. The Human Rights Measurement Initiative finds that Belarus is fulfilling 86.0% of what it should be fulfilling for the right to health based on its level of income. When looking at the right to health with respect to children, Belarus achieves 100.0% of what is expected based on its current income. In regards to the right to health amongst the adult population, the country achieves 84.1% of what is expected based on the nation's level of income. 6. Belarus falls into the very bad category when evaluating the right to reproductive health because the nation is fulfilling only 74.0% of what the nation is expected to achieve based on the resources, income, it has available. Healthcare in Belarus is supervised by the Ministry of Health and funded by general taxation through the National Health Service. Belarusian healthcare is inexpensive and easily available, although specialized care is rare. The country has maintained the system of privileged medical service for senior government officials who are entitled to use the hospital of the Department of Presidential Affairs. It is also available to other patients, but they have to pay. There is a network of daycare clinics in the cities and mobile clinics in rural areas. There is a small private medicine sector, mostly dentistry. Some of the services provided by the state attract a charge. Quality healthcare in Belarus is concentrated around urban areas, where purchasing powers are higher, leading to an inequality of health services in the rural areas. In 1994, there were 127 hospital beds and 42 doctors per 10,000 inhabitants. The country had 131,000 hospital beds at 868 hospitals. According to Numbeo Global Healthcare Index, Belarus was ranked 90th of 93 countries in 2021. The country was 59th in 2020. Sport. Belarus has competed in the Olympic Games since the 1994 Winter Olympics as an independent nation, receiving heavy sponsorship from the government. Ice hockey is the nation's second most popular sport after football. The national football team has never qualified for a major tournament. However, Bate Borisov has played in the Champions League. The national hockey team finished fourth at the 2002 Salt Lake City Olympics following a memorable upset win over Sweden in the quarter-finals and regularly competes in the World Championships, often making the quarter-finals. Numerous Belarusian players are present in the Continental Hockey League in Eurasia, particularly for Belarusian club HC Dynamo Minsk, and several have also played in the National Hockey League in North America. The 2014 IIHF World Championship was hosted in Belarus and the 2021 IIHF World Championship was supposed to be co-hosted in Latvia and Belarus, but it was cancelled due to widespread protests and security concerns. The 2021 UEC European Track Championships in cycling was also cancelled because Belarus was not considered a safe host. Victoria Azarenka, professional tennis player and a former world number 1 in singles. Darya Domrachova is a leading biathlete whose honors include 3 gold medals at the 2014 Winter Olympics. 293. Tennis player Victoria Azarenka became the first Belarusian to win a Grand Slam singles title at the Australian Open in 2012. 294. She also won the gold medal in mixed doubles at the 2012 Summer Olympics with Max Mirny, who holds 10 Grand Slam titles in doubles. Other notable Belarusian sportspeople include cyclist Vasil Kirienko, who won the 2015 Road World Time Trial Championship, and middle distance runner Marina Arzamasova, who won the gold medal in the 800 meters at the 2015 World Championships in athletics. Andrei Arlovsky, who was born in Babruz, Byelorussian SSR, is a current UFC fighter and the former UFC heavyweight champion of the world. Belarus is also known for its strong rhythmic gymnasts. Noticeable gymnasts include Ina Zhukova, who earned silver at the 2008 Beijing Olympics, Lyubov Charkashina, who earned bronze at the 2012 London Olympics, and Melatina Stanuta, bronze all-around medalist of the 2015 World Championships. The Belarusian senior group earned bronze at the 2012 London Olympics.